Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Professor Haroon Javed Majid, Head of Department of Surgery and Surgical Oncology at Sheikh Zayed Medical Complex, Lahore, and I'm also the President of the Surgical Oncology Society of Pakistan. I would like to thank the Department of Rheumatology and Immunology, Sheikh Zayed Medical Complex, for inviting me to speak at this August forum. The topic of my discussion today is surgical management of vasculitic ulcers. I would like to disclose that I have no actual or potential conflict of interest in relation to this presentation. I have nothing to disclose. Ladies and gentlemen, what is vasculitis? Vasculitis is an inflammatory disorder of the blood vessels, which can ultimately result in organ damage, including the skin. And the most common manifestation of that is skin ulcers, usually in the lower limbs in elderly patients. Vasculitis may be localized or it may be general. And symptomatology depends on, or what happens depends on what kind it is, whether localized or generalized. Now, what's an ulcer? An ulcer can be defined as a break in the epithelial continuity, usually classified as non-specific, specific, and malignant. However, my favorite mnemonic is VATIN, venous arterial traumatic infective neoplastic. The kind of ulcer that I'm asked to discuss today is maybe all of these or none of these. It is less frequently seen by us surgeons. However, it is characterized by inflammation and destruction of the vascular wall. Cutaneous vasculitis is more common than systemic. Clinical presentation ranges from reticulated erythema, as you can see these web-like or net-like uh, uh, redness areas, reddish areas, or it may progress to widespread spread palpable purpura, as you can see in all these pictures. And some of these purpura are blistering, and some are getting punched out with early small little ulcers. That's how they progress. And finally, necrosis leading to frank ulceration, as you can see in these pictures. Vasculitic ulcers are deep, with a punched out appearance, often with reddish or bluish tinge around the edge, as you can see in these pictures, especially the right lower one. They are often extremely painful and may deteriorate rapidly. Ladies and gentlemen, extreme pain, severe pain is a hallmark of these ulcers. Even change of dressings for these patients are very, very painful, thus leading to management difficulties. There may also be an accompanying palpable purpuric rash, of course, as we have already discussed. Common causes of vasculitis include infections like meningococcus or mycobacteria. They may be immunological with connective tissue disorder or some drugs, antibiotics, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and so many other kinds, as you already know. But I'd like to point out the most important one is the etiology, where it's the etiology is not really known. You've got vasculitis, but you don't know why it's there. The etiology is more often idiopathic in many of these cases. So basically, I'd like to say that it is a reaction pattern that may be triggered by certain comorbidities, which include underlying infection, malignancy, medication, as already discussed, and connective tissue diseases such as SLE. Now, what is the pathophysiology here? Immune complexes are deposited in walls of the blood vessels. This often starts in the legs because of the high hydrostatic pressure and in the post-capillary venules due to gravity. This activates the complement system, causing the chemotaxis of neutrophils. Activated neutrophils release proteolytic enzymes, inflammation, and vessel wall destruction, thus leading to leaking out into the tissues of inflammatory cells, fibrin, some blood cells. Now, this is one of the favorite pictures. I'm sure all of you have seen this. This shows ulcers in 3 patients in the lower medial one-third of the leg, which is also popularly known as the gator area. Now, this is the characteristic area of the where the venous ulcer happens. But are these all venous ulcers? Is there some other kind of ulcer? Let's see. No. The venous ulcer is in the picture A. It's usually accompanied by chronic venous insufficiency and varicose veins, and there's a background history. The number two one is the arterial leg ulcer. Usually, this patient may have a history of claudication, or there may be clear cut signs of peripheral vascular disease, and all that. So the history is very, very important, and the physical exam, the rest of the patient to be examined is very important. You examine not only the ulcer but the patient as a whole. The third picture is, of course, it's a kind of vasculitis that this patient has, but in the area where you would normally have a venous ulcer. So the differential is very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, almost always, the vasculitic ulcer is, accompanied by connective tissue diseases in most of the cases, and systemic inflammatory conditions. As you can see in this pie chart, in the, almost 70% is of this kind. And, these kind of ulcers, they're often accompanied by a history of recurrence. There's a history that the patient has been having these ulcers before, which were very, very slow to heal, very painful. So you have a history in the background. Now, what is the approach to the vasculitic leg ulcer, where you suspect that, vasculitis is the suspected cause? Of course, you take a detailed history and examination. And what you really need to determine the pathology is a biopsy. Some people do a punch biopsy, or dermatologists will do that, or rheumatologists themselves. Surgeons would also take biopsies. Well, whoever is taking the biopsies, got to remember how to take the biopsy. That's important, because you see, this is the normal section through the skin with the epidermis up there and the layers of the skin and subcutaneous tissue. Small little tufts of very fine blood vessels, the capillaries, the venules, the precapillary venules all over here. So when you take a biopsy, it's got to be a deeper biopsy, really. You see this blue line over here, it should be at least this much. If you take a slightly deeper biopsy, even it's better, because you get slightly larger size vessels over here. So for a better histopathological diagnosis or a more useful biopsy or histopathology report, you need to take a deeper biopsy. This is, a section through a normal skin. You see just like the placid surface of the calm sea, all those happy little fish floating around quietly. And this is a typical case of skin vasculitis and a confirmatory biopsy from this patient. You see all that maelstrom, all those inflammatory cells around vessels getting obliterated. This is something which is going to lead to ulceration ultimately. Ladies and gentlemen, we tend to classify the diseases, as described descriptive names rather than by the names of the referring, by the discovering doctors. Uh, it's really simple for me to understand that vasculitis can involve any vessel, from the large to medium sized arteries to smaller arteries, arterioles, capillary, venules. Ulceration of the skin usually is a result of this area of involvement, the arteriole, capillary, and the post capillary venules area. Now, I'll show you a couple of real-time examples. I hope you can see my slides. This is this pertains to some patients with ulcerative colitis. On the left is a picture of one of my own patients who had long-standing end-stage ulcerative colitis, and she had remained on high doses of steroid therapy for at least 2 years and non-stop, and prone to recurrent attacks of cytomegalovirus, repeated admissions. And we did a restorative proctocolectomy on her, and this picture is 2 months down the line, when she reappeared with malnutrition, side effects of steroids, and strange little ulcers appearing. You can see this ulcer over here clearly, and there is some impending ulcers over here and swollen feet. So this I would classify as a vasculitic ulcer also. And the other thing, that in these patients who remain under treatment for, say, inflammatory bowel disease, long-standing steroid, and of course, steroids are also part of the treatment of vasculitic ulcers and vasculitis. You see complications of steroid therapy, which we saw on this patient, which was, opportunistic infections were seen, bone marrow suppression. Most of them are important in post-operative patient, hemorrhagic cystitis. She had 2 episodes of severe hematuria, which we could not explain post-operatively. So This is another picture with a very serious complication of skin manifestation, one of the extracolonic manifestations of ulcerative colitis, which is known as pyoderma gangrenosum, which has a similar etiology. Very difficult to manage if you manage carefully with, say, the options are everything has been tried, topical and systemic steroids, topical tacrolimus, systemic cyclosporine. They are difficult to treat and slow to heal, and healing may take months and years if successful. So this is just an example of how you see them. So I'd like to say, especially in relation to the immunosuppressive therapies and steroid use in these patients, that while early deaths in vasculitis are the result of the active disease, late deaths may be caused by the complications of the therapy. So we should keep this in mind. This is another patient. 15 years ago, I was asked to do her temporal artery biopsy for some autoimmune disorder, and then I was seeing her 15 years later, and this is her left foot, and you see that the second toe has already been auto amputated. She was suffering for a severe systemic vasculitis, and there's a dry gangrenous patch on the toe over here, and later on she developed this dry gangrene on the heel as well. We kept on managing her with wound care, and she was already receiving heavy duty steroids, and no excessive cutting, because you take the heel pad off over here, you end up with a bigger wound in a bedridden patient with so many comorbidities, and there's bare calcaneum down there. You can't do much about this kind of a thing. So ultimately these things did not take her, but she succumbed to an opportunistic bacterial pneumonia which took her a couple of months back. So that's how these patients are managed. This is another lady with young girl with autoimmune disease, and you can see the areas of dry gangrene and patches of gangrene and some ulceration. I mean, look at the condition of the feet. What do you do with this? I mean, 17, 16-year-old, and she's got dry gangrene demarcating over here. She's lost that leg. This one is also, the toes are ischemic, and the whole foot, and you see ulcerations appearing over there. So I don't want to talk about major amputations here, but some patients may end up that way. Now, this is important. This is somebody, heavy duty smoker, came to me. Burgess disease, thromboangiitis obliterans. Their small little vessels are allergic to smoke. So I tell them you can either keep your cigarettes or your toes. So this chap over here, he presented like this, pretty messy, and I explained the situation to him. He had already been explained to him before. Also, he finally gave up smoking, and this is 2 weeks later with no cigarettes, much better. So they've got to stop smoking. This is some other gentleman who refused to stop smoking. He ended up like this. Now, this whole thing is ischemic over here. Even there are very few surgical options. Fortunately, this is dry gangrene. When you keep them on low doses of antibiotics, you try to convince them to stop smoking. But sometimes they don't stop smoking. So this thing continues like this. You try to do, say, a ray amputation over here, that thing is not going to heal. They've got to stop smoking. This is an internet picture. I wanted to show this because this is of this represents extensive generalized vasculitis. This is possibly secondary to a drug reaction that you see. Very very painful condition. Okay, so now as I summarize, what's the approach to the vasculitic leg? Of course, you have a history and detailed examination, and you suspect a vasculitic ulcer. You do a biopsy as required. You may know the etiology, or if you don't know the etiology, you send this patient to your multidisciplinary team, the rheumatologists, and although they do all those tests and work the patient up. The idea of the treatment is to the removal of the antigen if possible in the hands of these patients. And as a surgeon for local vasculitis and with ulcers, I would take care of the wound with regular dressings, debrima if required and as required, bed rest, elevation of the feet if the ulcers are on the feet, keep warm, provide moist wound environment. Initially on such ulcers, I would do saline dressings, plus compression bandages may help. Pain relief is very, very important because these are characteristically very painful. Ultimately, when these ulcers get better, as you can see in this picture, you can do a skin graft and cover the wound. Happy ending, but this thing can, as you know, these are recurring problems in these patients with vasculitis. If it's systemic vasculitis with ulcers, say on the lower limbs, you do all these things as you do for local vasculitis, and the patient needs to be managed on a multidisciplinary level with high doses of immunosuppression. The surgeon alone or the rheumatologist alone cannot manage these patients. It has to be a multidisciplinary management plan. So it is important to realize the implications of the underlying systemic condition associated with these serious, slow to heal, and often recurrent ulcers. Despite modern and effective dressings, long-term systemic treatments are often needed to control the inflammatory process. The goals from the surgeon's eye, from the surgeon's point of view, for some patients, the short to medium term goal may not be complete healing, but a manageable, pain free, or pain controlled ulcer, which allows a reasonable quality of life. While therapies, which may take months to gain control, in the hands of the rheumatologist, of the underlying disease as established, the surgical aim may simply be to bring the ulcer to twice weekly dressings, which is convenient, dressing changes instead of daily dressing, and perhaps to bring it to a condition which is suitable for a skin graft, real skin cover. Topical antibiotics should probably be avoided completely. This is because of the emergence of resistant organisms. Systemic antibiotics should be reserved for patients who have signs and symptoms suggesting significant infection or sepsis. There are some self-care guidelines in general, for patients, which may be useful, is to keep mobile with regular walking if possible, elevate the legs when immobile, use emollient, and examine legs regularly for broken skin blisters, swelling, or redness. This is very important. And lose weight, of course, if appropriate. But last but not the least, stop smoking. Now, what's the take home message? For limb salvage, autoimmune and vasculitic etiologies should be considered in patients with chronic wounds who do not respond to appropriate vascular intervention and standard local wound care. A multidisciplinary approach with collaboration with rheumatology allows investigation for underlying systemic disease contributing to delayed wound healing in these cases. When vasculitis is in the differential diagnosis and a biopsy is planned, the team should be careful to include reticular dermis and subcutaneous tissue, deeper biopsy. A methodical approach with meticulous history and physical examination, along with laboratory workup, improves the clinical outcomes for many of these challenging patients. In the end, I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone through the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic, and each one of us has an important role to play to ensure we successfully continue our fight against not only coronavirus, but all the other afflictions ailing our countrymen. We cannot afford to relax at this point. If we continue to show the same resolve we have throughout the previous year, I have no doubt that we will emerge a stronger nation and a stronger brotherhood of healthcare professionals and happy and healthy patients. Best wishes in ulcer management. Thank you. Pakistan Payindabad.